I suppose some of the reason behind me doing all that training was maybe to get back at him or stand up to him. So I kind of asked him, how long do you think I've got left? And he said, I think he said 2 or 3 years, but I could tell in his voice that he probably thought it was less.
En el video de hoy repasaremos la biografía del actor y artista marcial DOLPH LUNDGREN y, entre otras cosas, su dura batalla contra el cáncer. Estimados amigos, les saluda Kwan. Bienvenidos al canal. Hans Lundgren, más conocido por su nombre artístico como DOLPH LUNDGREN, nació el 3 de noviembre de 1957 en la ciudad de Estocolmo, Suecia. Su figura es mundialmente conocida por su participación en el mundo del cine, donde fue protagonista en películas que quedarán en la historia, como por ejemplo He-Man y los Amos del Universo de 1987.
¡Ya tengo el poder! ¡Tú ya no te interpondrás entre mi destino y yo! Por supuesto.
Punisher de 1989.
Dolph Lundgren, Louis Gossett Jr.
Mr. P, happy hunting!
The Punisher.
Showdown in Little Tokyo de 1991, donde compartió pantalla con Brandon Lee.
Dolph Lundgren. Brandon Lee. Showdown in Little Tokyo.
Soldado Universal en 1992 junto con Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Jean-Claude Van Damme. Dolph Lundgren. Universal Soldier.
Stop, that is an order!
La saga de Los Expendables junto a un gran elenco de estrellas de acción.
What you doing, Gunner?
Making a bomb. You mind?
Y por supuesto Rocky IV, donde interpretó el papel de Iván Drago en la película de Sylvester Stallone de 1984.
Whatever he hits, he destroys.
Lundgren habla 6 idiomas y tiene una maestría en ingeniería química y es practicante de artes marciales. Su camino marcial, más precisamente, comenzó en el año 1973, cuando empezó a entrenar judo por un corto tiempo, ya que en el año 1974 dio inicio al entrenamiento del karate Goju-ryu y posteriormente incursionó en el karate kyokushin, siendo poseedor en la actualidad del rango de cinturón negro cuarto dan de dicho estilo. Fue campeón de los torneos de karate full contact de Europa de los años 1980 y 1981 y de un torneo de peso pesado de Australia en el año 1982. Lamentablemente, sus motivos por iniciar en el camino de las artes marciales no fueron los más felices, tal y como lo explicó el propio Lundgren en una reciente entrevista con el periodista norteamericano Graham Bensinger. Antes de escuchar a Dolph Lundgren hablando de su carrera marcial, quiero pedirte que le des un buen like a este video y que te suscribas al canal, activando la campanita de las notificaciones. ¿Listo? Gracias. Continuemos. Este es el testimonio del actor sueco en sus inicios en su carrera marcial.
I couldn't play sports because the summer in Sweden is very short and the pollen goes from like nothing to maximum high amount very quickly in May, say April or May, and I would get really sick in the summer. I couldn't really be outside much.
And you were always picked last.
Yeah, I picked last on the team and so forth. Between that and my dad beating me up, I had a lot of, insecurity.
And bullying from classmates?
Bullying from classmates to some degree. My way to kind of feel special was that I was very good in school. So that's how I kind of got back at them by answering all the questions correctly.
You mentioned your dad and
Yeah.
the abuse. You had a few other siblings, obviously. Why was it that he would only touch you and your mom?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I may have reminded him of himself. Maybe it was the fact that I was the first son, and maybe he got jealous of me because maybe my mom gave me more attention than he gave to him. I'm not sure. I mean, he had a lot of issues. Well, he would when he had a bad day at work, or if I'd done something wrong, as kids do, then he would just beat me up, or, you know, I think the worst time was maybe when I was about 8 or 9 or 10. He wouldn't like punch me and break my nose or anything like that. He would kind of just beat me up, kick me in the body, or tear my hair off. So sometimes I would have like a kind of a thin spot of hair, like a bald spot almost. I think it was embarrassing for me, and this is in a day where there was nowhere to call, there was no hotline, there was no psychological counseling, nothing like that. But I think mostly for me, it was more, you know, I looked up to him a lot, as a little boy do. And when somebody you love hurts you, you know, it does a number on you as a kid. I think you end up blaming yourself a lot.
Is that
somewhere
what you did?
In there? I think it did somehow blame myself. I think it gave me a real ambition to succeed and to prove to the world that I wasn't a loser. The fact that I became a fighter and I became very good at school and later tried to excel at things, he helped me in that respect. Maybe without him I wouldn't have done that. Like my siblings here in Sweden, they live nice lives, but they don't have that urge to prove anything to the world. So that was a positive thing to some degree.
What would he do to your mom?
Beat her and torture her and throw her out of the house, and she'd have to sleep like in, you know, outside, and she'd still have to cook food for everybody, and yeah, it was tough.
And painful for you that you couldn't protect her.
Couldn't protect her, yeah, I know.
There was a period where you did want to hurt your dad badly, though.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I had dreams about it when I got strong enough and when I was training martial arts, and I suppose some of the reason behind me doing all the training was maybe to get back at him or stand up to him. But, you know, life is strange. By the time you're 18, and you shoot up, and suddenly you're 6'3", and you start weighing 200 pounds, and then your dad, in the meantime, has gotten kind of weak, and now he got sick too, and couldn't just show up. And martial arts teaches you to respect, and it teaches you not to misuse it. So I couldn't just, like, you know, take a train back home just to beat him up. It wasn't my personality. By the time I got old enough and mature enough to speak to him about it, he was kind of, he had mental issues, and he was kind of like, he wasn't living in reality. He was living in a parallel universe where he suspected people of being after him, and he saw like secret police everywhere, and he was kind of sick. And I realized there was no way I could bring it up to him. He had no recollection of that at all. He grew up during the Depression in Sweden in the 30s, when people starved to death in a small town. And I think my grandfather, his dad, used to be a hard drinker, and he was very violent too. And I'm sure my dad, he was probably a sensitive young boy, and somebody really abused him. So I forgave him because I knew that he didn't want to be that way.
En dicha entrevista, Lundgren admite que durante la década de los 90 consumió diferentes anabólicos para mejorar su aspecto físico para las cámaras. A continuación, compartiremos el impactante extracto de la nota de Benzinger, donde Dolph supone que dichas sustancias fueron las causantes del cáncer que está combatiendo desde el año 2015 hasta la actualidad.
Yeah, I tried steroids back in the 80s, 90s. I don't know if it has something to do with the cancer. Of course, it struck me as it could have had something to do with it.
Is that something you've really thought about?
I thought about it because you always think that you've made a mistake in your health. You know, healthcare, why you get cancer. Like, maybe it's only me, but you kind of blame yourself to some degree for it, but you know, I think maybe testosterone, there's some connection between testosterone therapy and HGH, growth hormone therapy, and cancer. In some people, they found a tumor, or they didn't know what it was, just a tumor in my kidney, and they took it out here in LA in 2015, but then they did a biopsy and it was cancerous. And then I did scans every 6 months, then you do it every year, and it was fine, you know, for 5 years. In 2020, I was back in Sweden and had some kind of acid reflux, or I didn't know what it was, so I did an MRI, I did one, and they found that there were a few more tumors around that area.
So you have the surgery, you wake up, you're told they actually removed 6 tumors.
Yeah.
And what happens from there?
There's a picture that I was going to direct and star in that was starting in the fall. The doctor called me when I was in Alabama, ready to shoot, and he said they found one more tumor in the liver. So I was like, oh, shit, okay. At that point, it started to hit me that this is kind of something serious. They did a scan to, you know, prepare for surgery. And the surgeon called me and said, no, it's grown now, it's too big. We can't take it out. It's like the size of like a small lemon. So now, if they can't take it out, that means you have to do systemic therapy. But then I started getting these side effects where I got diarrhea, and I lost a lot of weight. And that wasn't very nice for myself or for, you know, my poor fiancée to suffer through that. I had signed an Expendables 4 and Aquaman, a sequel to Aquaman, and both pictures shooting in London in the fall of 2021. When I got to London, they had a really good guy there who kind of was put in charge of my care. And I didn't hear from the people at Cedars for 6 months. They had never called me or anything. I think now, thinking back, they probably thought, oh, I'm a lost case.
Do you remember specifically what he said?
He started saying things like, you should probably take a break and spend more time with your family and so forth. So I kind of asked him, how long do you think I've got left? And he said, I think he said 2 or 3 years, but I could tell in his voice that he probably thought it was less.
Did you think it was it?
I thought it was it for sure, yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you kind of look at your life and going, have I had a great life? Yeah, I've had a freaking great life. I've led like 5 lifetimes in one already, with everything I've done, and so it wasn't like I was bitter about it. It was just like, feel sorry for my kids and my fiance and people around you. You know what I mean? Because I'm still a fairly young guy and fairly, active and so forth. In the midst of my, shooting these 2 movies and being kind of depressed, I decided, screw it, I might as well get a second opinion. So we get there and I see this doctor. I meet this doctor, Drakaki. If I'd gone on the other treatment, I had about 3 to 4 months left. I couldn't believe that it would be that radical of a difference, that within 3 months, it was, things were shrinking by 20, 30%.
How well do you recall sharing with your family when you had the positive news?
Yeah, I remember sharing it with them. Yeah, it was emotional because, even I remember telling even some of my good friends. Nobody wants to think the worst, but I think they did think, that it was over.
What's happened since then?
So 2022 was basically watching these medications do their thing, and finally things had shrunk into about 90%. Now I'm in the process of taking out the remaining scar tissue of these tumors.
What's the prognosis now?
The prognosis is that hopefully when they take these out, there's no cancer activity, and the medication that I'm taking is going to suppress everything else.
Going through all of this has impacted you now. How?
Well, I think, you know, you appreciate life a lot more. You appreciate every day I can be with people I love. And you know, you just appreciate, you know, being lucky enough to be alive, and appreciate every moment there is. This is just the first time I've spoken about it, so if it can save one person's life who was in my situation, then it's worth it, for sure.
Quiero agradecerle muy especialmente a las personas que estás viendo aquí en pantalla, los miembros cinturón blanco, cinturón negro y miembros gran maestro del canal, que me están ayudando económicamente para poder seguir creando contenido para el canal. ¿Cómo podés ayudarme y hacerte miembro del canal? Muy sencillo. Haces clic en el botón unirme y vas a estar siendo también nombrado en los videos, y por supuesto tendrás importantes beneficios de aquí en el futuro.
Si te gustó este video, te voy a pedir que lo compartas en todas tus redes sociales y que te unas al canal haciendo clic aquí. También te recomiendo que veas este video, que seguramente te va a gustar mucho. Gracias por tu tiempo, te saluda Kwan y nos vemos en la próxima.